My dad passes away. Then I had his funeral in a town that he lived in for 20 years. One person showed up. One. Besides me.
Wow.
And then fast forward to that summer, my grandfather on my mother's side died. And I'm not kidding you. You would go out the door, down the street, around the corner to get in line of the people that came to pay their respects.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between an alcoholic life and a true principled life.
An unchained life.
Holy smoke, guys. I am so excited about today's episode. I have one of my very closest friends, truly a brother from another mother. This guy is an incredible real estate professional, husband, father. He is funny. He is gregarious. He's self-deprecating. And he has an incredible story of restoration, living restoration and redemption from a life of alcohol and drugs and suicide attempts, suicidal ideation. If you are listening and you need this kind of a message, guys, you are not going to want to miss this episode. You're going to want to listen twice and share it with your friends.
Thank you
What's
for
up,
that.
man?
You almost brought me to tears. Because
we will. We're not done yet. We're not done yet, man.
I expect that.
As you were saying that, I was thinking of coming out of the mindset of failure. Absolute failure at life.
Yeah.
That's the word that came to my mind of where I was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think in our episode, we might even dance into the fact that you probably still fight that demon.
Yeah, I actually do.
The mindset of failure, that's a heavy point that you just made. And goodness, I want to understand, how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I often say this. How many times have you heard, especially men, say, "This is just who I am. This is just who I am." And I think in overcoming that, I realized that I don't have to be who I've always been. I'm not who I am today. I am. The decisions I've made have brought me here, but that's not who I am. Mm-hmm. And I'm not stuck there. See, because before I had that thought, I was stuck. Right? If we always think what we always thought, we'll always get what we always got. If I always do what I always did, I always will get what I always got. And it's in that belief that I don't have to be who I am today.
Yeah.
As I was thinking about this podcast, leave it to me to go right. Boom.
No, let's go.
Dude,
I was
get into
thinking,
it. I love this.
My wife and I have been having this challenge of getting through difficulties. And so as I was getting ready for this podcast, I'm like, well, shit. Here I am stuck again.
Chained.
Right? In my own stuff. So I started writing this list of, okay, what am I willing to do? What am I willing to do so that I'm not who I've always been? And part of that, so now that I said that, I have to say what it was, right? If somebody doesn't trust me, I just dissolve. And she made a comment to me the other day that I was not safe. She can't trust me. And she meant something completely different than when I took it.
Sure. Yeah.
And it just destroyed me.
Yeah. This is a guy with an amazing wife and a beautiful world, and,
right?
and a very trustworthy man for what it's worth, right?
You have an amazing heart.
And
you are.
And it just destroyed me, and I couldn't even talk. I couldn't process. Right. So I had to look at, okay, do I really want to be who I've always been and have that destroy me every time?
Yeah. I want to jump back in time.
I didn't mean to jump there, but
no, thank you. This is perfect.
I
Yes.
love this conversation. Jen and I were driving last night before the podcast, and we're just kind of thinking about questions, and we've had a couple of guests in the studio in the same morning, right? And very different people. And I had just commented, Jesse, that your story is so important because it's actually similar to, and it's similar, but you wouldn't think they're the same. But we had a guest on who is an ultramarathoner like Jen, Andrea McAfee. And we talked
One of
about
my closest friends.
Yeah, having to surrender false beliefs and ideologies to be able to finish 100 miles and what that requires. And the funny thing is that we all think we're different, but we're not different, because what we're all doing is we're all overcoming in our own little sphere. And Jesse, your story is so powerful because of where you were and where you are, right?
Yeah.
Just for fun, can I lead for a second here?
You can.
Jesse is a top real estate professional. And the reason I say professional, to me, Jesse's not a realtor. He is a real estate professional. This is a man who is literally a consultant. He is a consultant for his clients. He helps people make big decisions with lots of money. He does this in what is literally in our industry, the top 1% to 2% volume wise, right? Because there's a metric. Right. Because by the way, you could be the greatest real estate professional in America and only help 5 clients a year.
Yeah.
But Jesse's working with, 5 or 6 dozen clients a year. And Jesse is routinely recruited. Well, people attempt to recruit him from our organization and from our partnership, which tells you something about him, Jen, right? They're like, hey, when are you going to come over to our team? But this isn't always how it was, because when I met you, I like to say that where did I find you when I met you? You were always out somewhere.
Behind the dumpster. So I smoked for 30 years. And when you move to Utah, it's not a good thing to be a smoker.
Yeah,
so
it's not a good thing anywhere, but it's a real thing here.
Yeah, but it's a real thing here, right? Because it's a stigma here. You go to New York City, it's not a stigma.
Yeah.
Everybody's smoking. Or not everybody, but it's
yeah.
all over the place. Here, they don't stand in the middle of the street and smoke normally.
Yeah.
So I was pretty ashamed of that and pretty ashamed of my whole life, really. So I would go hide behind the dumpster and smoke.
At the old Keller Williams Realty brokerage down off of Convention Center.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And, we were under the Larkin Group, been in existence nearly 2 decades. And Jesse and I have told this story, and we actually told this story at his 20-year chip ceremony at the Alcoholics Anonymous about 30 days ago.
Uh-huh.
And when Jesse was presented to me as a potential candidate to join our team, I was like, that weird freaker? I mean, like that guy, which tells you a lot about how, let me back up. I was about to say it tells you who I was 10 years ago, but I will tell you this. We all think certain people are weird freakers.
Well, and how
Right.
was I not in the same thought about you? I'm like, who is this guy?
Who's this guy? Is this
who's
arrogant jerk?
judgmental guy?
Yeah.
So we were both we might as well just have been in a fighting stance, right?
Yeah.
To each other.
And this funny thing had played out because part of what makes you so damn lovable is he's very self-deprecating, but by the way, in such a wholesome way, like very, very much can laugh at himself. And he was laughing with us like a month ago that he had looked at our real estate signs and he had ripped them off, almost duplicated them, which is kind of a no-no. And he just
and I didn't even know it was wrong.
Socially, he didn't know there's any problem with that. And we had this idea of who the hell is this guy? He smokes behind the dumpster. He hides out. He's kind of odd. And he stole our signs.
And I'm sitting there in the bullpen at the brokerage with my new sign, not
I walk
thinking
in, I'm like,
anything of it.
what is going on right now?
But this is actually goes back to how chained I was in my life. I want to tell a quick story. And I'm going to set it up like this. I have 6 DUIs. 2, they used to be felonies, not anymore, drug charges. I'm on felony probation. It's 2003. Literally in my mind, I had no idea I was a criminal. 0.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them showing up at my house with bulletproof vests, hands on their hips, whipped to their gun, coming at me slow. And I'm like, wait, hey, I'm just a drunk. Because that's really what I was. I was a drunk with a drug problem. I would do drugs so that I could drink more. Like as deep of an alcoholic as you could find. But I had, and I'm literally thinking this, man, you don't have to use your guns. I'm just a drunk. And how similar is that to that story you just told? Not having any idea where I was at in life or what I was doing or what it was right or wrong or.
Wow.
And so that's the chained part, right? Until we can actually truly see where we've come to, we have no idea that we need to be unchained.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
dude.
Zero.
We talk about this all the time, Jeremy and I do, that oftentimes ignorance is the reason that we stay chained. We don't actually realize that we are. We don't know, we can't see what we can't see. We can't know what we don't know. And we need some kind of catalyst to get us to open our eyes.
Well, and Jen, Jesse and I at some point in our lives had both worked with the same therapist, Steve Allred.
Yeah.
And I've shared, I think with you, Jen, that Steve told me one day in a session that over the years, he had quite a few clients who had come for 2 sessions. And session 1 was where they would tell him all their problems, and or how bad their wife or husband was. Session 2 is where they took a look under the hood, and they'd take a look under the hood, and they'd be like, and he'd say, they would actually just say, I'm just going to go back to Netflix and a beer in the evening. Like, I'm good. That was a little too confronting, right?
Yeah.
And so what we do is we stay chained. And it's like the story of the elephant who is literally an elephant, and there's like a little tiny rope barely lassoed around an elephant. They could pull like a 10 semi trucks, and the elephant sees the tether and is like, I guess I'm stuck, right? But the point is, it didn't even realize it could just leave.
That's such
right?
that's such a powerful example.
Yes.
Right? Because truly, are we stuck? We are literally one decision away, one step away, one actually minute thought away from being unchained.
Thought, which is what this mindset course. Jesse,
just boom. Now, is it that easy? No. You've watched what I've gone through over the last.
You watch what I go
years.
through.
No, I had some. I've gone through exercises that most men would not let go of their ego to go through.
So
to be unchained, to be free.
Yeah, I want to ask a question, but Jer.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to know, so you just set the stage for being a criminal and not thinking you're a criminal. And where did you go from there?
So
maybe you have to go back further in time.
That was the actual greatest thing that ever happened to me, by the way.
Okay.
Coming to that moment, because I've always been pretty, I don't know if gregarious is the word, but I've always been able to charm my way out of situations and land on my feet. And this time I couldn't. Like I was cornered, with either I'm going to do something different or I am going to prison.
Or going to die.
So let me set the stage a little bit where my life was at that very moment. So I had basically lived my life or drank myself to a point where I figured out how to live life and still be a raging alcoholic, because things like it's acceptable to show up in the morning hungover, let's be real, still drunk. Mm-hmm. But if you work swing shift, it's not acceptable at all. Like you get fired for showing up drunk at 3:00 in the afternoon, but at 6:00 in the morning, it seems to be acceptable because you can say, I'm just hungover.
It was yesterday. Yeah.
Right. It was yesterday that I was drinking. So I had reached a point where my life revolved around alcoholism, including my 2nd wife she was starting to approach me about how bad my drinking was. And I said, well, you better pack up because this is who I am. There's that word again. This is just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I had reached the point in my life where I knew there was no getting sober, because I had tried for years to get sober. And I thought, man, that's going to kill a guy trying to do that, right? It's the same reason that people show up to that second session and go, oh, yeah, I'm out. Because it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot to come on the other side of that. So I had succumbed to being an alcoholic, and I was just going to die drinking. But I didn't want to go to prison. You know, and so I don't know what was different that year, that day, that time, but I had been sentenced to AA one more time. And I had been to AA for years, in and out, and I loved it, but I thought it was going to kill me because I just couldn't get it. But I showed up to that one meeting on September 12th in 2004 with zero intentions of getting sober. But just in case, I had went through the ritual the night before, and I dumped all of my booze out, and I literally cried all night.
Yeah, because you dumped out your safety blanket.
And I had done that for years, so many times. So, just like when I quit smoking, I had thrown the cigarettes out the window so many times and drove back and picked them up. And that night, I can't tell you what happened except for this. I didn't go to get sober, or I didn't go to quit drinking. Looking back, I went and I started to listen of how to live sober. I started working on living sober.
So your mindset changed.
I didn't try to get sober. I went and started reading about how to live sober.
How do I live sober? I don't care if I ever drink again.
Process over outcome.
Yeah. I had planned on drinking again because that was my history. But here, wasn't sure I was going to go here today, but I think it's important. I was always a prayer guy. I loved prayer, and I would pray, Lord, oh man, please help me stay sober. But for some reason, I would always end up at the bar. Like I'm a bar karaoke, love to play pool, and so I would pray to stay sober, and then I would end up at the bar to sing karaoke or to play pool or whatever, and not understand how come I got drunk. I just didn't get it. So this time I had made a commitment to myself that before I actually did that, I would pick up the phone and I would call somebody. So I remember the first time, and this is going to lead into another story, which I think is what really changed my life. My dad had drank himself to death, and this guy did this, I want to say 9 times, but that's just a funny joke, right? He's got 9 lives. At least 3 or 4 times he drank himself to death and would come back to life.
Wow.
Like whether it was from pancreatic cancer, whether it was, whatever it was, he would do it and then come back. So this time I get a call. It's November of 2004. I'm 60 days sober, and he's on life support. One more time. And I hadn't really talked to him because I finally decided I was done trying to go save him, But I was struggling with that decision because I'm the guy who shows up at the hospital. Like, no matter who, I don't even have to know you that well. If you're in the hospital, I'm coming to see you.
He's still doing this.
That's who I am.
He's a hospital guy.
So I'm sitting there, but I'm on felony probation. I can't just go. He's in Nevada. I can't just leave the state. And I'm sitting there on a Saturday. And I wish I could get up because you got to see this visual. I'm living in my mom and dad's fifth wheel. I don't have a driver's license. I've got this hobo basket that I roll down to the laundromat with all my clothes in it, right? It's got wheels. And,
Wow.
And
So good.
I'm walking the 4 blocks with my cart.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm doing my laundry. So I'm sitting there doing my laundry, and I'm in pain because I want to go help my dad, but I don't. I do, but I don't. And I'm in that fight, right? Number one, who do I want to be as a man? But I'm tired of dealing with this drunk. And I'm watching these guys do a drug deal. And I had a lot of money because I wasn't drinking, so I wasn't spending any money.
Wow.
And I'm watching this, and I'm like, okay, I can go get a 30-pack of beer. I'll visit these guys, get some stuff to help me drink for days, and I'll be off and running. And I didn't really want to do that, but that is the answer, right, for me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm praying like, boy, Lord, help me. I really don't want to do this. Please help me stay sober. And I had made a commitment to myself that I would make phone calls. I would call somebody and at least tell them what I was going to do. So I called everybody on my list, every man on the list, probably 20 of them. Nobody answered.
Where were
the
you
phone.
living at this time? Because I know
In
this
Hurricane,
story.
in Robert's Roost.
I was going to say, is this Robert's
It was
Roost?
Robert's
Okay.
Roost, and I was at
That's
this
too
little
funny.
gas. It was like 4 blocks from the gas station.
Yeah.
And nobody answered the phone. Like 20 guys. I mean, I had a big phone list. And so now I'm pissed. Screw you, God. I'm done. I did my part. I'm done. Well, I have to wait for my laundry to finish before I can go get the 30-pack. So about 10 minutes later, I'm finishing up my laundry and my phone rings, and it's this old lady named Blanche. And she's like, hey, what are you doing? And instead of lying to her, I said, Blanche, I'm getting ready to go drink. What are you doing?
Wow.
She said, man, I was calling to see if I could take you to see your dad, but can you hold on just a little while? I'll come and get you. We'll go to a meeting. We'll get through this. A couple things happened in that moment. Number one, as soon as I told her, the pressure was gone. Like the thought was gone. Like it was just... But the other thing that happened is I realized that I didn't call Blanche. I hadn't called her.
Mm-hmm.
God told her. I really believe he told her to call me.
I believe that too.
In that moment. And that day I realized that if I would do my job, God would do his. And I could stay sober. But if I'm just praying and praying and praying and praying, and then I just go live my life and don't ever talk about it, it doesn't give God time to do his job. I'm still taking control.
Mm.
Right? I'm still going, okay, I'm going to give this to you, but then I'm going to go do whatever I want. Instead of, hey, this is where I'm at. Because me and God, we don't have a chance. But me and God and you, me and God and you, me and God and us, wow.
Yeah.
We can conquer the world.
And how many facets is this applicable to in life?
Yeah.
Right? I want X, I want Y, I want Z. If I just could get to here. And then we go off and do what we've always done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We do it our way. Mm-hmm. I see this, Jesse, in our business.
Yeah.
It
makes me think of, we think we just have to go, 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 go. Well, how many things in our life are actually just like, wait a minute, stop, slow down. Whoa.
Yeah, the art of
and
subtraction.
Change direction.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Instead of going left, go right this time.
Yeah.
We've talked about that.
So now my dad passes away. I show up. I do everything I'm supposed to do.
You got to see your dad?
I got to see him, and it took me 3 weeks to get him off of life support because he didn't have a will, he didn't have a trust, he didn't have nothing, and I had to contact all of his kids. Well, one of them's in prison. The other one, I don't know where she's at. So it took some work to figure this out. But then I had his funeral in a town that he lived in for 20 years. One person showed up. One. Besides me.
Wow.
And then fast forward to that summer, my grandfather on my mother's side died. And I'm not kidding you. You would go out the door, down the street, around the corner to get in line of the people that came to pay their respects.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between an alcoholic life and a true principled life.
An unchained life.
Yeah.
An unchained free life.
So that happening in that within the same 12 months, it rocked me.
Wow.
It rocked me. It's like, okay, you're at a crossroads. Do you always want to be who you've always been? Or do you truly want to leave a legacy that people will want to show up and see you when you're on your way out?
That was the a linchpin is the key link in a chain.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like that was the day that chain was cracked, right?
It was.
That was pivotal.
But the day that it truly was cracked is when I met my wife, Leah, and she started to help me really see the greatness in my dad. How many of us run away from who our parents were?
Oh, yeah.
I'm never going to be like that. Well, they used to call me Little CJ because I am maybe now I'm a spitting image of him too.
Is that your
because
dad?
I'm bigger and
Hey Jesse, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck.
But I have the same mannerisms. I have the
Wow.
same, right? I'm a great salesman. Like I am my dad. But I was running from that, and I was so resentful at him that I couldn't change until I faced that, until I could see the true greatness of him. And Leah helped me through that. I think that is the key piece of truly being able to go, okay, now where am I going? Because otherwise I'm always running from who he was, hence who I am.
And Jesse, one of the things that you have talked about that they talk about a lot in the AA program and just in addiction recovery. And I've been studying this in my mindset program. What we resist, it persists. It persists. Yeah. And right. And what we focus on grows. And isn't it so fascinating how, and I invite our listeners to just kind of pause for a minute. And I want you to ask yourself the question. You don't have to answer out loud. What am I resisting? What realities in my life am I resisting that are in doing so actually growing? I won't become my father or my mother or my thing.
I think that's a big one, huge one. Instead of really, because if we're doing that, we don't have room to see their strength.
Yes.
To see the greatness, right? And to go, wow, I have that.
Jesse, it's interesting. Question. Aren't we in effect by being, there's a Shakespeare quote that, and I always misquote it, but Jen's heard it. Thou doth protest too much, or thou protesteth too much. Aren't we actually proving or demonstrating how chained we are to them every single time we have to blab about how much we won't do that?
And the irony is, we're, yes, you said it, but I think that, that saying, don't look at the wall, don't look at the wall, don't look at the wall, don't run into the wall. And then you run into the wall, right? And so it's again, what you focus on, that's where we end up heading. And it's ironic that if we're focused, and I've seen this in, my own life, and I mean, it's a trend, but I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to be like my parents. Well, ultimately, there are two things happening. One, we're going to be like our parents. And second,
you're headed right there.
We're not even allowing ourselves to be who we are. We're focused on not being someone else. How about we shift and focus on who am I actually? And what good, like you said, what are the traits in my parents that I choose that are good, that I want to emulate? And what are the traits that I want to try to change that are probably still part of me, but I don't want to do it the same way they have?
Well, and Jen, to that question, I was talking about Matthew Ferry in a previous episode, this mindset work that I've been doing with this guy. He's a real estate trainer and now a mindset coach. He said, can we all just remember, and this is an interesting phrase, because watch when I say what I'm about to say for our listeners, how much you might even react to say that's not true. Our parents were doing the very best they could. What do you mean that's not true? There's no way my father could have done way better. Here's the question about CJ, right? Was he or was he not doing exactly what, based on who he was at that moment?
Yeah.
Our parents, and then you know what's funny, Jen, you and I have talked about this, and Jesse, one of the things that is so amazing about you is you have how many children? But they're four children, non-biological.
Yeah.
He treats them, Jen asked about it last night because she's watched who you are. You treat your fatherhood of non-biological children with more ferocity and love and commitment than I see most people who have biological children, but just for fun.
I hope so.
Jen, so do your lovely 3 girls, aren't they like, man, our mom does everything right. She's really got it figured out.
Of course they do. Yes. They think I'm amazing.
Won't they one day be adults and say,
oh, I hope so. I actually often pray, please have children so that you know how hard it actually is.
Yeah, and they'll be like, Mom did this.
Oh, wow. You were doing a pretty good job.
The great part about being a stepdad is you don't get the blame for all the stuff.
That's true. You get the good stuff.
You get the glory for the stuff. Like, I don't get any of the blame for the for the stuff.
Jesse, and I,
or at least not that I know of.
Yeah.
Not that you know of. And I wish that we had unlimited time today. Your story is, Jen knows this and you know this, that I'm kind of obsessed with this idea of restoration. I buy old homes. I adopted dogs with 3 legs. We had been on a flight and we cruised into Las Vegas and we walked the old, what they call old downtown Las Vegas, but they call it the Arts District now. And if you had seen me light up, did I light up, Jen?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, look at all these old buildings and they're restoring them and they're so cool. And there's like shops and restaurants and, I get excited. And Jesse, your story is a story of restoration.
Yes.
I think so.
And it's the story of how, and I believe our podcast, we get to talk about God, the way that God, and I don't know how God works because
we all have a restoration.
Yeah.
The truth is we all have a restoration.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that our Creator, and if we can just use that term for all of our listeners,
that's a good one.
Because, people have different beliefs. What we call in AA, they call it, what do they call it? A higher power.
Higher power.
Yeah.
I think that there is a desire for restoration from our Creator at all times. And the question is, will we step in? Will we step through the door and allow ourselves to be restored?
Here's the important part about whatever you want to call it, the Spirit, the higher power, Lord, God. When we're trying to change our traits, that is a God job. We can't do it alone. It is deep. It's entrenched. And without some kind of a spiritual experience, we can't do it.
Yeah, we try to read more books, attend more seminars.
It's truly a transformation that takes a spiritual experience, whatever that is for you.
Jesse, thank you. I wholeheartedly agree. I had an interesting thought this morning. I cry a lot. And you do too. And actually,
I'm a crier.
I got emotional today. And it just wasn't in the frame because he was talking.
Which is what allows me to makes me love the two of you so much. But I do cry a lot, and it's been an interesting process over the last couple of years. And I cry a lot when I think of God or communicate with God. And this morning I had the thought, it's because I know that God loves me. That is a powerful belief and understanding. And one of the things that you said at the beginning is that mindset of failure. You had to change that. And when you talked about your dad and his funeral, do you know what my immediate thought was? That beautiful man who didn't know how much he was worthy of love. He was caught in that mindset of failure. Mm-hmm. And I love the victory that you caught on to. If you show up, you said this, if I show up and do my part, God will do his part. So that you could turn right instead of continuing to turn left. So that at your funeral, there won't even be space in the building for everyone who wants to attend. So please don't die for at least 50 more years.
Yeah, I need you too. Also,
Maybe
as a buddy,
60. Yeah.
I need you as a buddy. I also need you to keep being incredible in our business.
Yep.
Jesse, in our limited amount of time today, I've watched something that I've watched with you is I've watched you become a mountain biker, right? I've watched you take on these new habits. And
2020, March of 2020 was my first mountain bike race. Actually, the mountain bike, it was the day of the championship.
It was October. It was actually October. It was October.
Okay.
The day of the high school state championship. I invited Jesse out on a bike
2020.
ride. And he decided to prank on me, and he shows up with a package of Depend undergarments, and which was the insinuation that he was going to wear some to pat his butt.
To pat my butt.
Love it.
And he's wearing a black, like the branded logo jackets that corporations give to their employees. You worked with the Doterra Corporation for a long time. It was a Guild mortgage jacket. It's not, it is not a mountain biking jacket. It's like the kind of thing you'd wear with slacks or jeans. Yeah. He shows up in a Guild mortgage jacket, some oversized basketball shorts, Depend undergarments.
Yeah, I got those under my arm.
Manages
at the race.
Yeah.
So
this is so
hilarious.
good.
Manages to do one rack out there on the gypsum, that white gypsum dirt out at on the Green Valley Loop, the Bear Claw Poppy, and
oh man.
And the thing about you, Jesse, is you just, in this theme of being and living unchained and becoming unchained, you just continue. And this is the greatest compliment that I think I can actually offer maybe anyone. You just keep being willing to look at yourself and say, how can I grow? And you don't do it in a way, Jesse, that is like perpetual self-help, this never ending cycle. Because actually you're simultaneously so happy, so satisfied, so present, and he'll come and say, God, I had a huge fight with my wife. And the next thing he'll ask is, help me see what part of this was mine.
Wow.
That's the kind of people I want in my life. And this is how we become unchained, is we're willing to ask the question, is there a blind spot? How am I having a blind spot? Jesse, the term unchained, which we fiddled around until we started the podcast. What does it mean to you to live a life that's unchained or become unchained? What does it mean?
It means that I'm no longer living my life headed toward destruction, headed towards death, headed towards loneliness. And instead, I'm headed towards a true connection. Mm-hmm. True connection with my family, with my friends, with my clients.
Yeah.
See, as long as I'm living my life where I can't, I'm stuck, I can't have those relationships because I either drink them away or I push them away, or, right? I'm running away from who my dad was, and I'm just blinded. But when I'm unchained, I'm not blinded anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm asking the question. Now, not all the time, right? Sometimes it takes me days
to
get there, but I always try to get there. I'm like, oh, okay. Is this really where I want to be? Is this who I want to be?
For our listeners who say, yeah, but mine started really young. But my story is unique. By the way, it is unique, your story, right? But it's terminally unique.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that I had XYZ or happened as a child. Jesse, how young did your suicidal ideation, which we didn't even talk about, start? 6 years old.
Yeah, I was trying to commit suicide at 6.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it stopped at 43, 44.
And how old are you now?
53.
Okay. Wow.
Took a long time to get through that.
Wow.
Interesting.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for fighting through that. Well, I just mean thank you for being on the earth.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean. Thank you for being on the earth, that you had 40 years of fighting through that.
Yeah.
And look at all the lives that you blessed, mine included. Jeremy's very much so. You call him every morning at 6 a.m. I don't know if he would get out of bed if you didn't call him.
Thank you.
Half the time I'm on D&D and I miss him. But
But I love that you said you now focus on a life of connection, because I see in you that you are a man who truly feels redeemed.
Yeah.
And you are now taking that and sharing that with others.
I hope so.
That's your mission.
I hope so.
Your focus is on lifting everyone else.
I want to, I want to echo that. His focus is on lifting everyone else. There's a phrase, I blurted out, I want to, because you have a thought, but you haven't formed it. There's a phrase that I've learned recently, which is to give the gift. And to give the gift, it's like, oh, what is that? It's actually not mysterious at all. It is to give and offer value to every person and every interaction you have. And you do this well.
I hope so.
And he wants to make money and earn a lot and have freedom and build a legacy with his assets and have rental properties. And those are all wonderful things. But I can tell you, Jen, I can tell our listeners, Jesse does this through giving, and it's very nuanced. Because we can't, Jesse, tell me if I'm correct, we can't say, oh, cool, well, I'm just going to give so I can get.
No.
That doesn't work, does it?
Mm-mm.
No, it's just that the desire is that I see in you is I'm going to just give, and I'm going to trust that the outcomes will come to me, right?
Yes, except that giving is just a gift in and of itself, right? We had a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
The intent is not, like you said, not giving to get. It's, I'm just giving because I see who you are. End of story. And it's amazing how it does come back to us. I hope that you are you speak that you have received tenfold, and you will continue to.
Absolutely.
Jesse, if people want to reach your, like in the real estate world, you have like an Instagram handle in real estate, because that's the place that most people are going to go. Few people are going to write down a phone number.
Is it bad that I don't know what it is? Jesse Paul, Southern Utah Realtor?
Yeah, I want you to look him up, or you can find him.
Or you can find me just at Jesse Paul, JESSEPOLL. That's my personal one.
And Jesse, what I love is just as you are with your kids and your wife and your friends and us and your colleagues, you're like that with your clients, right? Anybody who's doing business with you, you treat them, you're lifting them. So it's an incredible experience to work with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you.
What if somebody wants to do, can people reach out if they like, listen, if they want to ask you about, hey, help me understand your story,
anything at all,
because I'm lost
anything at all. I am open book. I love helping people.
Yeah, guys, beautiful.
Especially with that. Like, I love helping people with life stuff.
Yeah, guys.
Business works itself out.
He's an incredible father, husband. He's a business owner. He's one of the great real estate professionals. My friend, Jesse Paul.
Thanks for having me, guys.